Thank you everyone for joining us. As we have people keep filing in, feel free to say where you are joining us this evening, but really excited to have y'all here. My name is Genevieve Wagner. I'm the Public Programs Assistant at MAS, and it looks like there's a good mixture of returning and new walk leaders in the room with us. So really happy to have all of you here. We're really excited to have this festival this year as a hybrid festival of in-person and virtual walks. Tonight we'll focus on virtual walks, which we're really excited to keep offering even in this hybrid capacity because there's been a lot of creativity and exploration over the past few years with the virtual walks we were able to offer last year and the previous year. Before we begin, I want to let my other MAS staff members introduce themselves briefly so you know who's in the room with us tonight.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Spencer Williams. I'm the Director of Advocacy here at MAS, and I'm really excited about this year's James Walk Festival.
I'm Elizabeth Goldstein. I'm the president of MAS, and I'm a hanger-on tonight. But lovely to see you all, and so excited that you're going to dive in and do walks, virtual or otherwise.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dorothy Dunn. I'm the Interim Special Projects Director at Municipal Art Society, and it's thrilling to see you all and look forward to a very busy weekend during James Walk.
And I'm Eliza. I'm the Community Engagement Intern, and I'm excited for this festival. And thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Some little housekeeping details. This program is being recorded, so a recording will be available on our YouTube after. Everyone is currently muted, but feel free to put your video on if you're comfortable. Later in the program, we'll be able to have some time for conversation when your microphone can be on. If you need any help during the program, feel free to message someone with MAS in their title. We can answer any questions. And yeah, the first portion of this program will be going through examples of virtual walk platforms that you can engage in this year. And then we'll move into breakout rooms for some small group discussion. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get into it. Wonderful. So I'm sure that a lot of you are aware of MAS and our history, but we were established in 1893. And since then, we have been uplifting the voices of New Yorkers and advocating for a more livable city, focusing on issues related to the built environment, including preservation, planning, and public art. Fostering civic engagement is a core element of the work that we do. So Jane's Walk is a key pillar in the programming that we do each year. Now, who is Jane Jacobs? Jane Jacobs was an urban activist who did a lot of work in New York City and in Toronto, and she believed in the power of individuals to influence their cities. Her written works, including The Death and Life of Great American Cities, remain a canon of urban planning literature, theory, and practice. Her activism helped save beloved areas in New York City, including Greenwich Village, where she galvanized New Yorkers to rise up and protest of the Lower Manhattan Expressway, which was proposed to decimate a lot of neighborhoods in that area that we now are very grateful to still have. So by engaging locals in her community, she was able to preserve that neighborhood and many others. So through this festival, we like to celebrate her legacy and also celebrate the incredible New Yorkers who are active today and who were active in the past, who in a very similar way have advocated for a more vibrant and livable New York City. Now, this year's festival, as I said, is going to be a hybrid festival of in-person and virtual walks. Today, we'll be talking about virtual walks, which can operate in a lot of different platforms. Spencer, my co-host, and I are going to be talking about different types of walk platforms. And one thing I'd love to remind y'all for this year's festival, whether you are attending a Jane's Walk or promoting your own Jane's Walk, we encourage you to use the Jane's Walk NYC hashtag to promote your work and just share your experience in Jane's Walk this year. You can use it on TikTok, Twitter, or Instagram. So keep that in mind as you're promoting your walk and experiencing Jane's Walk this year. Now we'll get into the different ways you can lead a virtual walk this year. First, we'll discuss Zoom, which I know that a lot of you have experience with either as an attendee or someone who's led a virtual walk in the past. And it's a really great platform to use if you'd like to engage many different voices or share visual information in an engaging way. Along with Zoom, there are other platforms like Google Meets, WebEx, Skype, and Zoho Meeting that you can use to lead a virtual walk, virtual live walk on a browser. Some examples of ways you could use Zoom to host a walk include hosting a panel conversation with local activists or professionals exploring an issue that affects your community. You could share a PowerPoint or Google Slides presentation and use images and words to explore your neighborhood or a favorite New York City history topic. So we could operate in a similar way to a tour, and you're just sharing a slide of images and pictures. You could host a trivia or a game night focused on an element of New York City history. That's a really fun, engaging way to lead a virtual walk. And another idea would be, since we aren't confined to one location, you can use Zoom to lead maybe a variety show that celebrates local creatives in your community, people who are making work about New York. So some ideas of ways you could lead a virtual walk on Zoom. And ways to make this virtual walk more exciting. You could engage with group discussion using breakout rooms. Also, you could go mobile. Zoom allows you to have the app on your phone. So as the leader, you could lead your walk on your phone and actually take attendees around your neighborhood. And you can also think about ways that the virtual walk can live on after the actual air date. So think of activations or activities or call to actions that you could use to make the walk live on after the actual date. And an example, you can find this on YouTube, provide the link as well, is a walk through Morningside Heights that was run by the Morningside Heights Historic District last year about some proposed historic districts in their neighborhood. There is an audio on this, but I'm going to go through just a few clips of it. And this presentation was hosted by a member of their group, and it just went through different elements of the history of the neighborhood. So a collection of images and words talking about the history of the architecture of this neighborhood. So it could be as simple as a tour kind of walk that walks you through a location in New York. So that is all about Zoom. One thing to keep in mind, if you are submitting a Zoom walk, make sure that you include the Zoom link in your submission form so that we can use that on the event page once it's published. So that is about leading a Zoom walk. And next I'm gonna have Spencer talk a little bit about how to lead a live walk on social media.
Thanks, Genevieve. Yeah, as Genevieve said, you can also do a lot of the same functions that you could do on Zoom on social media. Over the last 2 years, there's been a lot of new functionality that's come to social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, that allow you to go live and share multiple perspectives, to stream, and it really presents a lot of unique opportunities that can be complemented by a bunch of different types of formats. Next slide. And so in this example, we highlighting the from last year, we saw someone sort of walking through in person on one part of the live, and someone sort of narrating in place or in room on the other part. And so it's a really great way to be walking virtually, to really let someone move through the neighborhood. Because these are also sort of recorded, it's something that people can then also access afterwards. And so by providing the link and sharing the hashtag, it's something that people can also find if they weren't able to attend your live event. A really important thing to note for social media accounts is that your social media profile must be public so that people can access it. If you have a private account, or there's sort of a limit to who can access it, they won't be able to access your walks. And so if you're using your account for the purposes of Jane's Walk, make sure that at least during the portion of the festival that your account is available. And we can share this link as well. Next slide. You can also sort of have someone, a buddy, go with you so that you are sort of leading and narrating the walk and someone's following you around in place. We see this is the same group leading this walk from last year. It's a really fantastic opportunity to partner with someone. But it is also a way that you can highlight different aspects of your walk, or ask people to engage on different portions of the walk as well. So you can invite people to come to a particular site on your walk and take a photo and use a hashtag, including Jane's Walk. You could post a story or a map or supplement this. I would also say that sometimes we'll see people do both an in-person version of their walk and then may also do a social media version later in the festival or sort of on demand as well. And if you could press play here, that'd be great. Just to give you an example of sort of what this looks like, a really nice dynamic opening welcome that is really orienting you to sort of who's leading the walk in place. Make sure that you're in frame so that people can sort of see what's around you. Sometimes when people go live on a walk, they'll be sort of really tightly cropped, so you'll see their face. But what you really want to be doing is taking people on the walk with you. And so this is one of the ways that having another person filming can be really helpful. The alternative to this that we see is people sort of using their phone and turning it around in the other direction. So that they're actually sort of walking and talking with their phone. And that can also be really effective. Sometimes people will take those live footages, that live footage, and edit it afterwards to cut in some additional things to make sort of more evergreen content as well, which is what's happened here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Spencer, for walking through how to lead a live virtual walk. You made some really great points about how to hold yourself as the host. And I agree that having a buddy to help you co-lead your walk is encouraged in any kind of walk, whether it's virtual or in person, but it's really helpful when you're leading a live walk. So thank you. In a similar vein, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to lead a walk on social media in an on-demand way. So using Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, or YouTube to have a more like stable, like on-demand, less scheduled live walk. So this is a walk that anyone can access at any time. So it's on demand. And I'll give some examples of how that can work. So this is an example that MAS put on our account for Jane's Walk in 2020. And it's essentially, it's about an issue we were focusing on in our city planning team, but it's a post on social media that has multiple images that a walk attendee can swipe through. And the content has important topics that it's exploring, and you can use images or a collection of videos in a post as your virtual walk. And then in the caption, you can provide a little description of what the walk is about. So a really simple yet wonderful way to lead a virtual walk. And as Spencer was saying, this will live on afterwards as a post, which is also really exciting. If you do a post like this, a great way to use the hashtag. as well. Another example that I really love, this was a walk that was hosted by the Brooklyn Botanic Garden last year. And it was a walk that was recorded, and it was led by the president of the Brooklyn Botanic Garden, but it was posted afterwards. So it wasn't a live walk people could attend. It was instead of some video content that was recorded and edited by this organization and then posted online afterwards. So maybe you weren't super comfortable with going live and having attendees watch you while you're talking. Maybe you want to have the time to edit and record yourself ahead of time. This is a great way to use social media if you want to do that instead. So record a video and upload it on social media so people can access that post. I'm gonna let Spencer share some information about how to lead a walk on your browser.
Yes, and so the internet is infinite in its opportunities to really tell stories. We've seen a lot of really effective examples of people using blog posts and websites to compile images and videos and maps that can tell the story on their own, but also can really serve as a vehicle for people to go on a sort of self-guided walk. And so you get the opportunity that someone's walking with their phone and following along the website, sort of step by step, site by site, that could have prompts, that could have audio engagement. That possibilities here are really, really exciting. And you can also think about ways to sort of share content as well across platforms. So you could be pointing people to a video that you put on your Instagram that really highlights a site as well. And that's another way to really generate a lot of engagement on your activity throughout the festival. Next slide has a couple of examples. On the left, MAS has done a really extensive blog post about a local rezoning effort in downtown Flushing that includes maps and images and some narrative from community members. That really goes into depth about topics. It's a really good example of sort of how to make a complicated issue interesting. We've seen a lot of other examples from neighborhood groups, from community gardens, really sharing a lot about their local issues. Similarly, there are a lot of really new great ways to sort of capture urban stories and neighborhood stories through audio, and ways to share that, whether that's a podcast or just a conversation that you're having with a local expert. That can be a really good way to capture conversations in your neighborhood and really lift up those local community voices. In
And
addition,
Spencer, do you want to share your screen for this portion as well? Okay, great.
sure. Yes, you can also lead your walk on Urban Archive. Urban Archive we're very excited to have them as a festival partner again this year. They are a great resource of all of these collections of historic photographs. I'll walk through the tool in a moment, but it both offers sort of an in-browser experience. It can supplement an in-person walk that could serve as sort of a way for people to do a self-guided walk or for more information. And so we have seen, or you could imagine, sometimes in-person tours, people are handing out resources that might have those historic photographs. If people were to have the Urban Archive app on their phone in-person walk, you could also use that as the resource so that you're not sort of passing around a laminated photo. People could be following along with those stops in person on the app. And so again, there are a lot of ways to really think about how to do sort of virtual offerings on their own, but also to pair them with in-person options. And then also, because of the opportunity to add stories, you can really prompt people to engage with your content by posting something on social media, using your own hashtags again, and really supporting conversation that's happening outside of the app or outside of the browser. Because it's one of the really great things about Jane's Walks is that they're walking conversations. And I think to the degree that you can really encourage those conversations to be happening, whether in person, online, or on social media platforms, we really want you to sort of be in conversation with other festival goers and people who love New York City. And so I'm going to show you what last year's Urban Archive portal sort of looks like, and highlight a few things. So should all be able to see my screen. So this was last year's James Walk 2021 festival. It gave you sort of this overview about the festival, and then let's go ahead and start exploring. And so you'll see on the left a map here that's got a bunch of sites. So all these sites that are in blue are things that are sort of being highlighted in the festival. To stay on the map side of things, you can zoom, you can search, you can also do this really rad 3D function, which gives you a different look of the city in a not map form. So you can begin to really see the landscape of the city. And then on the right, you will see the James Walk logo, which will let you see all of the things that are a part of the festival. And then each of these are individual walks. And so as an example, we could look at the Gilded Chelsea history tour that was done by Save Chelsea. What comes up then is narrative that they've added, as well as images that are coming from different archives in the city. In this case, they're highlighting the Altman and Company department store from using a historic photo from the Museum of the City of New York's archive. They've added a bunch of content here that gives you information about each of these sites, and also are suggesting sort of an order to view them in. And so I could follow along in this tour in browser, or I could also sort of take this to the street and then go stop by stop and learning about these buildings and these sites by using the tool. I can then go back by clicking on that James Walk logo and continue to look at other stories around the city. I could also search by topic. Here, if I wanted to look up like library, it's going to show me like a topic that I'm really interested in and see if there's a walk that someone sort of put in here around that topic. And so Open House New York, as an example, had put together a series of sites for radical knowledge to take a walk and learn about your local library, to really look through sort of some of the historic libraries in Brooklyn here. And that is also something that can be useful when you're thinking about maybe creating a story on Urban Archive. You can sort of do that search and find lots of resources in their library, but also see, is someone leading a walk on the topic that you really care about? If not, it might be a really good indicator that that's a topic that you should lead a walk on. There's lots of other resources on the Urban Archive page as well, in terms of how to add stories and posts that will make sure that you get after this and are included in the FAQs as well. And so all of that information can be found on their website. It's really, really easy to set up an account with them. It takes about 30 seconds, and then you're sort of ready to go within a day. So I encourage you all to consider using Urban Archive for your digital offerings. And I think with that, to share my screen one more time and then hand it over to Genevieve.
But yeah, as Spencer is sharing his screen, thank you so much for that great overview about Urban Archive. We've partnered with them for a while, and they're really wonderful. It's a great app to use in James Walk, and also a great app just to use in your everyday life. If you're walking around New York, you can use it to explore any of the buildings around you, and it gives you a great history of the buildings you're walking by. It helps you engage with New York in a really fun way. So now we're going to move into breakout rooms. So I'm going to assign everyone to a breakout room. And while we're in these rooms, we'll have time to answer any of the questions you might have, but we'll also converse about ways to make virtual walks extra engaging. And I'm looking at the results from the poll that was published at the beginning of the event, and it looks like we're tied. Half of the group is going to lead a tour on history and culture, and half the group's leading a tour on architecture. Love that. Share those results. Thank you everyone for joining back in. I think Spencer and I are going to debrief a little bit about what happened in our breakout rooms. I can go first. We had some great sharing of past walks and tours people went on. One highlight was a tour of potholes that Jeffrey shared, and I really loved that. I thought that was a really fun way of leading a walk on something that's a really small element of New York, but that affects everyone. So really enjoyed that. And we had some really great questions just about leading your walk that were great to answer. And want to say again, if you have any questions, you can email the Jane's Walk email, and a member of our team would be happy to answer.
I would echo the sort of, if you have a question or like a technical need, like you're new to Zoom, you're new to one of the platforms, reach out to our team as well. I think there's a lot of really great ideas about how to activate things like presentations and modify walks that have been previously given in person to different platforms. And so to really think about how to engage those conversations, how to bring in some moments of audience interaction into those things that you may not, that may be new to you as well. We're here to help. And I think a lot of really exciting advocacy items came up in our conversation around sort of really lifting up stories and pointing to like really active new books and research from community members, new opportunities to sort of engage people and getting new markers and plaques on historic structures. And so really excited to see and attend some of these virtual offerings and hope that people will sort of think about ways to both post and be live and think about all of the different platform opportunities that are presented by a hybrid festival. I think it's a really unique opportunity. But yeah, I'd say if you have questions, reach out to us. We're here to help.
Yes, for sure. Thanks, Spencer. And Eliza posted a question in the chat that I would love everyone to respond to in the chat, and I'll read it out loud. And the question is, what is a Jane's Walk that you hope someone else will lead? So maybe you don't have expertise in a certain topic. Maybe you aren't from a certain neighborhood, but you'd love to see a walk related to this topic. So feel free to put your answer in the chat.
And this is really going to help. Sometimes people reach out and they go, I want to lead a walk, but I don't know on what. And so your answers will be really helpful for us to be able to go, well, when we did our training, we heard that someone really wanted to go on this walk or learn more about this particular neighborhood. Maybe that could be you. Maybe that person's on this call.
And kind of on that note, I saw that Chandler put a message in the chat that they love parks and would love to see a walk on more of our public green spaces. So that's a really great example. Oh, great. Okay, Ricky said Ladies Mile, Manhattan. Cool.
Liza coming through with the history of Clinton Hill. Fantastic. Rich history there. Joe is asking a question. Will we use the MAS Zoom account? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, we ask that you use your own account to lead your walk. Just considering that we have so many walks submitted, it's a little difficult for MAS to have everyone use our account, but you can create a free account. Any questions on how to do so, you can definitely email us. But yeah, we ask that you use your own Zoom account.
And outside of Zoom, there are a bunch of other platforms that it can be really expansive as well. And so if there's a time issue or some other technical thing, we can help troubleshoot sort of which platform might be the best for you. Bronx's Little Italy along Arthur Ave. Fantastic. I want to I want to go and eat some delicious food with you with me after that. Yankee Stadium and the Grand Concourse area. Yeah, that area is fascinating, and the parks and the history there. It's great.
For sure. I'll read Lori's answer. You saw a post recently about a Zoom of stained glass windows in the Bloomingdale neighborhood, Upper West Side. I also had never heard of that neighborhood. Would be great to go on a walk related to that.
That name, Bloomingdale, came from the asylum that was up in that area prior to the history of Columbia University being there. And it gradually dropped out of public discourse, and Upper West Side kind of took its place.
Thank you, Deborah. I did not know the history of that. I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for sharing these great ideas. They're really great ideas for walks, and I hope to see some of these maybe in this year's festival. Before we close, I have a few more last details to share. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. First, I'd like to highlight the FAQ on our website, where commonly asked questions can be answered through that. And also our Jane's Walk training guide, which is on our website as well, has lots of great examples on walks, different examples of the various platforms we went over today, and also information about how to lead an in-person walk. This guide also has resources about just technology and other elements for when you're doing your research on your walk. Our Jane's Walk Slack is another great resource for meeting fellow walk leaders and asking questions. Important information will be posted in the Jane's Walk Slack, so I encourage you to join. There's a link in the chat. You can also email us to find out how to join the Slack. There's another training in April on leading an in-person walk. So maybe you'd like to lead 2 walks, 1 virtual, 1 in person, or you're just curious about how this is different than leading a virtual walk. It'll be led by Ted, our director of tours, who is wonderful, and that's on April 6th. So you can go on our website and sign up for that training. And then lastly, I want to remind of the deadline. The deadline for submitting a walk is March 31st, and you can find the submission form on our website. We're really excited for this year's festival. So I really appreciate all of your enthusiasm, all of your wonderful questions this evening. So thank you all. I think another poll will be, or there's another question in the chat that Eliza just posted. I'll read it out loud. Would love to have y'all put your responses in. Who is a famous New Yorker you'd be interested in learning more about on a Jane's Walk? That's a really great question. If you don't want to lead a walk on a neighborhood or at buildings, you can lead a walk on a person. And yeah, feel free to put your responses in the chat. Or if you can't think of an answer right now, feel free to mull that over and think about it when you're brainstorming. That's okay if you don't know many. Joey Ramone, great one. I put Eve Adams in there. Awesome. Herman Melville, yeah, really great. Gail Brewer's Upper West Side tour would be interesting. Yeah, Gail's great. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for your responses, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're really excited for the festival this May, and yeah, thank you so much for your enthusiasm and your questions, and a big thank you to the MAS team for all of your work on this event and for the festival. So thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Of course. Have a great night.
Have a great evening. Bye.
Wonderful
you.
presentation.
Yes, very, very, very good.
Thank you.